So just putting together a quick recording on Gmail. They had a significant crackdown on cold email at the back end of last year, which has had a few sort of ramifications for certain things. So just want to go through a few steps today just to explain how it worked previously, how it works now, and sort of what that would mean for you if you're looking to sort of benefit from cold outreach or improve it or essentially get it set up and working for you. So the first thing we'll cover here is just the old way. So previously you could just have one domain, one email address associated with that, or multiple emails across if you had a business with multiple users. Send as much volume as you'd like through that. You could use CRMs, other different tools for that. Just to give you a bit of context, Harris and I previously used to sell CRM software to recruitment businesses, so we kind of know all about that, how it works. We used to sell it on the premise that you could send 500 emails per day. And if, for example, 500 emails at one time, if you want to send more than that, you would just keep sending multiple mail shots. So some of the businesses that we worked with were sending 5,000 emails out per day per domain, having no problems whatsoever. With this too, you could just pull a list and start sending. If it bounced or anything like that, didn't really have too many implications. Of course, preferable if you didn't, just because then you can actually contact the people you want to speak to. You could use whatever copy you want. You didn't have to use things like spam filters to check for triggers. Didn't have to use spin tags. A lot of people used to have like fancy email signatures, so links, images, GIFs in their email signature. Again, landing in the inbox, no problems whatsoever. You could then also configure DNS settings, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, as long as those were aligned, you'd have that linked into your CRM as well. Again, you could just mass mail out through the system and multiple users sending thousands of emails per day. So that domain is getting plenty of use, and again, no problems whatsoever. And again, skipping sort of key steps here, like no domain warm-up, no domain rotation, and no automated follow-ups. So was still relatively manual, but again, people were getting such good results from those mail blasts that it didn't really matter. Then there was kind of like a forward step. So they sort of tightened the sort of rope slightly. So for example, you would then have to start getting multiple domains, buying 3 to 5 mailboxes to that domain, and then sending up to 50 emails per day per mailbox. And again, since that, they've then cracked it down even further. So multiple domains again, but you'd rather than 3 to 5, you'd be at 2 to 3 mailboxes per domain. The reason being is as those rules were tighter, you didn't want to get a whole domain blocked, so you would send less volume out through that domain per day, just preventing it from getting flagged and sort of playing on the safer side of things. And from with this, you would drop from 50 emails per day to 25 emails per day per mailbox. So as I mentioned at the start, massive crackdown by Google the back end of last year. Again, this is more to protect the users than to actually have any sort of real implications for people using cold email marketing. So we'll focus here now on the new way. So the split that we have and numerous other cold email people that are utilizing this as a channel now have is one domain, 2 mailboxes per day, but the volume is 15 emails per mailbox per day. So a big significant drop from essentially unlimited down to 50, down to 25, now to 15. You then have to go through a rigorous warm-up process. So 14 days is what we follow, and then again, start sending slowly. You would have to have the correct sending software in place, so it does things like domain rotation, keeps that continuous warm-up in the background as well. So you can't, again, just plug it into a CRM and start blasting. But that's a one-way ticket to getting your domain blocked, landing in the spam folder, essentially losing that domain as well. You have to run your emails through spam word checkers. There's a lot of now certain different triggers. So around certain events, for example, Black Friday or stuff like that, or Christmas time, for example, and it says things like offers, free, this kind of stuff, they can all sort of flag up as spam words. So you have to be quite careful with that as well. Spin tax as well. So what that means is that, and again, the tool we use has this built in, but just to give you an idea of what spin tax means, it will swap out certain phrases so that when it's sending the email to different people, it will look different for each sort of recipient on the server. So for example, if you said hi first name to one person, it will then automatically say hello first name, hey first name, good afternoon first day. So again, it's looking different each time it sends, so that Google aren't sort of recognizing those patterns. The other thing we now do as well, which again, not too big or anything really to do with deliverability, but the automated follow-ups, again, just keeps you in front of that client. People are more likely to buy after sort of a few more emails. It allows you to build trust as long as you're presenting value in those follow-up emails as well. The thing with this, though, that does depend on deliverability is you need that first email to land in the inbox, and then the follow-ups will follow it straight in, essentially opening the door with the first. The other two will then land. Again, previously wasn't too much of a problem. You could just send what you want and you'd be straight into the inbox. A big thing now too, lead verification. So you need to keep your bounce rate below 2%, ideally below 1%, but again, it's quite difficult now. just with all the different data sources and that kind of stuff. If you're over 5%, it will start to have a severe impact on your deliverability. Over 10%, you need to essentially stop sending completely, clean up the list, and there's a number of verification tools as well that you can use for this now. Just off the top of my head, there's things like Zero Bounce, Million Verifier that's worth sort of spending the money to run your emails through that. Again, using a tool designed actually for cold outreach, and then essentially as well, completely ring fencing a primary domain for one-to-one communication. So we only use our main domain for essentially booking in calls, responding to our clients, that kind of stuff. And then we have a completely separate setup for our cold outreach, purely just because of how severe the rules have been, and we don't want our main domain to get blocked. You need to keep consistent a consistent eye on your domain health and monitoring that, and doing frequent inbox placement tests just to ensure that, again, your campaigns are performing, you're getting the results that you'd want, because it can drop off quite significantly if you don't keep an eye on this. And again, if you keep trying to sort of go over 15 emails or sort of bending the rules, it will just have a negative impact on your overall performance. So why did Google do this? So just essentially too many people sending out too many spammy emails, people abusing their CRMs, burning their domains, poor sending behavior, so just doing blasts and blasts of emails to people. And Google and also Microsoft can track if people are replying or if it's just a one-way street. So if you're sending out 1,000 emails, for example, and no one replies, you'll instantly be flagged as a mass sender. And Google is also looking to protect its users, not the senders. So they want the people using Gmail to not be bombarded constantly with sales emails and poor copy and this kind of stuff. Google have also introduced a rule as well that if you send over 5,000 emails per day, you'll be marked as a mass sender, and that won't change. Like once you're marked as that, that will be the case forever. So you want to avoid that as well, and the way to do that is, as I touched on earlier, multiple domains, multiple mailboxes, never going above 15 per mailbox per domain, and a domain would have 30 emails going out of it per day. So you're miles away from that limit, because once you get to that point, Google will crack down on you even further. The biggest shift as well, as I touched on, Google was shutting down mailboxes at the back end of last year. It caused a lot of agencies a lot of problems, and also a lot of businesses that utilize cold outreach. They're blocking people's domains, people losing access to things like their websites. And now good infrastructure is now essentially vital for cold outreach, for email to work. If you don't have that in place, copy, leads, all this is kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things until you get this sort of building block in place. And again, like I said, no workaround for this. You have to have the correct setup in place. You have to go through the warm-up. You have to have the multiple domains and mailboxes for this to work. Mass sending out through CRMs that aren't designed for outreach is just a one-way ticket to get everything blocked. The good thing is that volume does still exist. So with this, you just need to be a little bit smarter. So as I was saying earlier, more mailboxes, more domains, which you can then balance the volume across rather than just doing it all through one. Better copy, clean sending lists for leads, spin tags, use spam word checker, and also safe send scheduling. So don't be sending core emails over the weekends or out of working hours. Again, it will just get flagged as spam and people will notice that. And again, just another way for you to get flagged as a mass sender. The outcome if this is done properly, so higher inbox placement, cold email will work for you again. A lot of people we speak to, a lot of our clients who are sort of furious or just frustrated that it wasn't working for them. And we literally, with one of our clients, for example, Jack, he was sending about 100, 200 emails per day. We set his infrastructure up correctly. Within 6 minutes after the launch, he actually landed a positive reply, which turned into a sizable client. So again, it just shows how critical that piece is. Predictable performance, so again, just sending consistently within sort of certain time windows and consistently running the in the background to generate your results. Because especially when I used to work in sales, it would be very stop-start. You prospect for 1 month, you fill up your pipeline, then you don't do it for that month. With this approach, you can consistently have it ticking over in the background, so you have a consistent stream of people coming back. You obviously get a mix of negative, but also people that are interested. So it just means your pipeline is consistently full. And if you utilize this as part of a multi-channel approach as well, like we do, so using LinkedIn outreach too, also can use things like cold calling. So you have all these different angles to get in front of people, and you'll be surprised at how quickly the results start coming in. You start to fill up that pipeline. So this has become the new normal. So it's not about sending less, it's about setting up the right infrastructure to allow you to win with cold outreach. The early adopters are winning. A lot of agencies ahead of the game that are doing this, but your average sort of business owner who doesn't know too much about this and just sending out through a CRM, they will probably be seeing particularly bad performance through their email campaigns, with up to 60%, if not more, of their emails going into spam. Once they fix this piece, they'll be surprised at how quickly their performance swings back around. And all of the clients that we have and we work with personally have received multiple positive replies, turning into clients, meetings, and revenue within the first 30 days. And that's because we put such a key emphasis, first of all, on the infrastructure. Then we focus on helping them with getting their copy right, the leads is cleaned, all that kind of stuff. So we can provide a fair bit of guidance with that too. And I know I mentioned a fair bit of there's different bits of information, there's a fair few moving parts with this. We've actually created a free school community called Automated Outbound. So in there, everything that I've just discussed is in there. The setup that we use that I've discussed in this is in there for free as well. So you can actually go in there, go into Classroom, build it all out yourself. You'll then have the correct infrastructure in place. And when these changes come, so with Google and even people like Microsoft, Yahoo, different email providers, everything will be posted in there. So you'll be sort of at the forefront of that, and you can keep on top of that. So you're not constantly chopping and changing and getting frustrated. The whole purpose of this community is to help people get good at cold email, start sort of bringing in clients and increasing their revenues.